Hey guys, I am out in my dahlia field today because procrastination has once again had its grip on me, and I've been meaning to take this video. Imagine this, it's summertime, it's warm, I'm in a cutesy dress, I'm walking around. That's not reality, that's the internet. And over here we live in reality where I have really good ideas but not good execution. So here I am, October, literally days before possibly our first freeze or frost, and it is so cold. Old man winter has decided to come early. I am frigid, okay? A week ago I was sweating and now I'm freezing, but it is what it is. But I wanted to take you guys along on a walk for you to enjoy, but also for documenting for me. All the dahlias that I grew this year, what I liked about them, what I didn't, varieties that I will stick around, and varieties that are gonna go out the window, because I've said this before about tomatoes. Don't keep them if they do not serve you. There are literally thousands of varieties of things in the world, and just because they're really good on Instagram doesn't mean that they always work for you, or at least that's what I've figured out. So I think this is enough of talking of an intro. Let's just get to looking at dahlias, shall we? Okay, so when I was planting these, I tried to think about what was gonna be easiest when I dug them up. Last year, I tried to do beautiful rainbow order, but then they all got mixed up. And so this year, I decided to stray from the Instagram beauty and just do alphabetical. And I still mix some up, but it's way easier for me to figure out what it is if I know that it's an alphabetical order. So I will probably keep on doing that because it's just simple. So I'm going to take my flagging tape and write down the variety right here. So I've got the variety name, and I will tear a big piece off and then tie it around the base of the start of each one, unless there's only a couple, and in that case I will flag both of them so they don't get lost. But let's say I have 7 of this variety, I will flag the first one, and then the next variety after that I'll start, because once you wait till the frost to dig these up, and once it comes, all of this will be brown and ugly, so you will not be able to tell the difference. So trust me, you want to do it while you still know what they are. Hence why I'm out here 2 days before my expected frost. I meant to do this a lot sooner, but you know, life gets in the way. So first up, we have a dahlia named Alley-oop. I don't find myself reaching for this one all the time just because I'm not a red gal, but when I do need a red, it comes in handy. So I'm excited to propagate more of these. They will be sticking around. Next up, one of my favorites. I used it all summer long. It pumped out the blooms. It has nice long stems even from the beginning. You can see just how long the stem is before you get to the bulk of the foliage. And as a flower farmer, I really appreciate a stem. Like almost as much as what the flower looks like, the stem is so important. And this is a cute variety. It looks good in everything. This is my favorite color palette, is a champagne, peach, pink. Those are my favorites. You'll see that trend throughout my field because I love those colors. But if any of you know flowers and know what this is, so it has these orange lacerated like fancy petals, and it has a green center. Let me see if I can find one that's a little open, because I had this marked as Big Brother. It's definitely not Big Brother. I popped it off, but it will have green in the center in the summer, and if you know what this is, please tell me, because as of right now it's just labeled as fancy orange because I don't know what it is. This little ditty is old, like you can see on the back, her flowers or her petals have changed, and dahlias change through the season with the weather. So as the sun gets less and the nights get colder, first of all, they really thrive. That's their weather. But second of all, they change colors. I think that this is a bracken. Bracken Sarah? It's hard to tell late season because the colors can change so much, but I think that that's what it is. It has huge flowers, green foliage, green stems. These blooms are a little smaller, more saturated with color, and slightly different petal formation, and I think that this one is Bracken Palomino and the other one is Bracken Sarah. Only time will tell. The next cutie on my list is this one called Brown Sugar, and you can tell now she just doesn't look the same as what she did mid-season. You'll find that as the season goes on, your dahlias will start to have open centers where they used to be closed, and that's perfectly normal. I found that the stems are okay, not super long, but I didn't use it much until fall just because it's so much of like a rusty reddish orange color, but I'll continue to grow it because it's cute and it is usable. I just don't find myself reaching for it like I do some of my other varieties. Okay, next up on the list takes a ton of space in my dahlia field. I've got like a whole row and a half of it because I planted 200 of her. That's how much I love it. But it is Cafe au Lait, and in the end of the season she's looking kind of raggedy, but let me show you. You do get a bit of variation on this variety, which is super fun. But one thing, the flowers aren't super long lasting. They do make a statement. They are beautiful. They last about 3 days, 4 if you're really good at changing the water and trimming the stem. But you know what? I don't think we need to be so concerned about vase life. I mean, you do, but you don't. If something's beautiful, just let it have a place to be beautiful, even if it's only for a couple days. Now, if you're shooting for just grocery store bouquets, I wouldn't reach for a cafe because her petals are so dramatic. They bruise really easy, but in every single bouquet that I put a Cafe au Lait in, everyone comments on it, everyone loves it. And let me show you some of the varieties that you can get, or variety in the flowers that you can get from just this one kind. So we have the classic Cafe au Lait. Later in the season, she gets these curly little petals in the center, and it's my absolute favorite. I will be cutting some of these before I go inside to take them in. And this is absolutely my favorite quality that happens with this. And now you can get, which I will be obtaining by next spring, there is Cafe au Lait Royale, or Royal, I never know which way to say it, that is super pigmented purpley pink. But, okay, so you see this one, it's slightly pink in the center, but from the same exact plant, you can also get this. And it's so exciting to get a pink one. When they throw up their pink blooms, those are my absolute favorite. It's like a little surprise. And this one, let me show you the details. It's got pink, but also curly centers, which I absolutely love. There we go. Isn't that so beautiful? Even with an open center, she's still beautiful. You can tell it obviously gets tall. Now, one of the things that was on my to-do list was to stake all of these. So I was going to just pound posts in the ground and then corral them with like a string. Super simple. Did I ever get around to it? Absolutely not. Are half of my dahlias laying on the ground unusable? Yes. Will I make it a priority for next year? Yes. because they do get top heavy and they fall over, and then you can't use the stem because it bends towards the sun, and then you have this wonky stem. So that will definitely be on my to-do list. Plus it's really hard to walk through these paths. You just kind of got to walk around and over and in between, which is fine for me. But if I wanted to invite anyone here for like a U-pick, it would definitely have to be cleaned up a little bit, but that's fine. So she has nice, long, strong, thick stems, which the thick stem part can almost be sort of a bad thing, because in the beginning of the season, her stems are like a tree trunk, and then it's hard to shove anything else into a mason jar bouquet if half the mason jar is the one cafe au lait stem. But hey, I'm fine with it. I have also found, because I'm an avid seed saver, and you'll see lots of, now that I look around I don't see any, but you'll see lots of pods on my plants, because starting in like the 1st of September I stopped deadheading my plants. So if you want super good production, you keep the plant blooming and blooming and blooming. You always take off the spent blooms, because if not, they will start to set seed, which sends a signal to the plant that their job is done. They've produced their babies for the season so that they can live on, and then they will just kind of peter out. But I love to save seeds, and also the possibility of a dahlia. So if you didn't know, a dahlia seed isn't like true to type. Rarely, like if I saved seed from this, it's probably not going to look exactly like this. It's going to be a mix between all the genetics, and I can't get into that because I'm not an expert, but the possibility of a fun new dahlia is so tempting that I've saved hundreds, or I have saved hundreds of dahlia seeds so far this season, and there are so many pods on these plants that the possibilities of a honey trail farm dahlia are in the future, and that's feels so fun. This next variety is very good if you are selling like mixed flower bouquets or market bouquets. It's a very manageable size, so it's not like the behemoth, I don't know why my voice just did that, but it's not the huge like cafe. It's not gonna take up a massive space in your arrangement, and I wish that I had a picture of it earlier in the season, because it has changed color so dramatically. So it starts out this very medium purpley, very pigmented purple pink, and then it has faded into this super cute muted purple, which purple's not super, it's not my favorite color in the world. It's not my favorite color in the world, but I do like to have it in the mix. Here's one that isn't as faded, but it still is not as pigmented as it was earlier in the season, and it is Caitlin's Joy. And I just have a few of these plants, and I'm not gonna lie, they got lost in the sea of cafes, because they are a shorter variety, or at least it was for me. But I will continue to grow it. It goes great in an arrangement. These ball type dahlias with the tight petals and you usually closed centers tend to last much longer in the vase than these big fluffy giant ones. You could get like easily a week out of the ball dahlias in my experience. So just for that, it's very good to have on your market farm. So this next dahlia was one of my favorites all season long. It was big, it's beautiful, its petal count is huge, but I was just looking around and I'm pretty sure I have both of these. So there are two varieties that look very similar, and the main difference is that their stems, some are green with lighter green foliage and some are dark, like purpley with darker foliage. And to be honest, all my plants look kind of scraggly because it's the end of the season and I can't really tell the difference right now. So I'm just gonna label them all Castle Drive, and then you know what, one of the things that on my list is going to figure out once they bloom next year, what is Castle Drive and what is Coralie, because these two varieties get mixed up all the time. They're super similar. It's not a huge deal to me until I go to sell these, then I'm definitely going to want to know the difference. But I probably won't be selling in 2024, so it's fine. But it is beautiful right now. I don't have a very good example just because it's, like I said, it's the end of the season and the blooms are getting smaller and the colors are a little different and the centers are opening, but it is a beautiful flower. It has nice long strong stems, and I use it all season long. It's one of the floppier varieties, like a lot of the plants are laying down, so I definitely need to get staking up on my priority list next summer. But these are here to stay. They're magical, they're beautiful, and they're in my favorite color palette, so they're gonna stay. Okay, next on my list of dahlias that are definitely staying, but as you can see are very floppy, and that's not their fault, it's my fault. Had I had them staked, I could have used them all season and they would have been beautiful, but they kind of fell on the ground and I didn't see them, and now I'm seeing them and I've been walking past them all season wondering what they are, and now that I have my list, I know exactly what they are. It's gonna be hard for me to say because I'm not good at pronouncing things. But it's Chimicum Najay, I don't know, but it's this pretty mauve color, and honestly I love the green center. I'm not sure, it's closer to closed, but in, you know, when they first start blooming, and like I said, a lot of them as they age open up, but I feel like this has always had a slightly open center, but it's beautiful. I love this color. Whoop, I popped her head off, but I will definitely be keeping this. And then next, with a giant, we have a grasshopper problem here, and let me show you. Did anybody else watch Jameson the Giant Peach as a child? That was one of my favorite movies, and every time I see these massive grasshoppers, I just think of the grasshopper on Jameson the Giant Peach, and then I flick it off. They don't really do that much damage. They kind of do. They bite the petals, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, but this variety that he's on, can you get off? Thank you. This variety, it has nice long stems. It's a beautiful color that I don't use a whole lot of until the fall. It's called Chimicum Troy. It's beautiful. I will be keeping it. So next up, I just have a couple of these because the rest ended up on my mom's house somehow, but I have the Cornell series. So if you are looking to get into flowers, get anything Cornell. They have super long, strong stems. Their tubers store super well, which is very important. You don't get like soggy, mushy halfway through and panic and, you know, try to start them. And I don't really have a super good example because they've all kind of gone to seed and are looking scraggly, but it's Cornell. So I have Cornell Red, which the flowers get much bigger, and then Cornell Bronze, which, look at this sad little example of Cornell Bronze. Cornell Bronze is one of my absolute favorites. It goes with everything. It's a very like muted, I don't know how to even describe the color. It's not orange, but it's bronze, I guess is the way to describe the color, but it goes with everything. One of my very favorites. One that I loved all season long that I did not think that I was gonna like, but it literally looked good in everything, and I'm a sucker for like a bigger flower. I know that it's not super economical, okay, but they are beautiful. This one is called Colorado Classic, and it's pink and yellow, so I did not think that I would like it this much, but its petals are beautiful. It makes tons of flowers on nice long stems, and I found myself reaching for it all season. It's called Colorado Classic, and yeah, I will continue to grow it, and I love it. Okay, one that I will not be growing next year. I did not like it. I did not even cut it probably one time. is Cream de Cognac. I don't like the colors. Obviously this is only half of a flower, but you can just see it looks like this, but it can also look like this. And it looks like ketchup and mustard, and it's absolutely ugly, and I'm not going to take the time to save this tuber in storage because I hated it. So there's that. This next one I loved. Right now it's pretty short, but I'm not sure if that's my fault or this is true to variety, because I'm pretty sure it grows taller for other people. Oh, there's a little... There is a cold, sleepy bee in this one. This variety is beautiful. It looks good in everything. It's a color that goes with everything. It has two different variations. Sometimes the petals can be curly in the middle with a slightly open center, and then sometimes I find that it's all the way closed. And to be honest, I love a curly center, so I love when it throws up one. Maybe I can find a picture. I'm pretty sure I took a picture of one earlier this season. I didn't even have the heart to cut it because it was the only one that was like that, and I loved it, so I left it on the plant. But this is Christian honey, I don't know how you say it. So it can look like this with a closed center, but it can also, and this isn't even the best example, have these like curly ones in the center. It's like a soft butter yellow, and I absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait to have like a whole row of these beauties. I got this next variety just because it was on Florette's like must grow list, and if it's on her list, it's got to be amazing, right? I'm not so sure. I love the foliage. Let me show you. So the foliage is this like dark silvery green. Now it does have a little bit of powdery mildew, so it's a little extra silver, but it is still this like definitely strange color foliage, like regular to this. But I just did not find myself reaching for this variety at all. Just because, and I love an orange dahlia, but I have so many other orange dahlias that I was reaching for more. Here's a good example of one. It's this like bright orange. The petals are fine. But you can also have this. And a lot of them were like this weird open center. And I find that their petals bruise easily. Like they're very dainty petals, and I don't know. It took a long time for the stems to get this long. One thing is, if you're growing something and it's the first time you're growing it and you don't like it, try to give it another season to see if it's just like the conditions or how you're growing it, and that you might like it more before you toss it. So this is my first season. I will still grow it just because I have a ton of it. But it's not my favorite. This was one of my favorites. It took her forever to show up. She didn't start blooming until like late September. And this isn't the greatest example because it's got this like white petal. Normally it's all this like deep burgundy. The petals look like velvet. It is beautiful. One of my absolute favorites for the fall season, and so I hope to grow tons more of this. And her name is Diva, and she is a diva. It looks great in every bouquet, and I love it. This next one I grew solely because it was on Florette's list as well, and it wasn't my favorite color in the world, but I still found it usable. Was this one called Genova. It's this like strikingly different white and purple. You don't see a whole lot of purple dahlias, and it is definitely purple, which is not my color, but I did find that it goes with a lot. It's like the perfect flower size to fit in like every arrangement, because you can just tuck it in because it's small. It makes tons of blooms, and I will continue to grow it even though it's not my absolute favorite. It does have a spot here, and yeah, that's all I got to say about that. I try to support flower farmers when I buy dahlia tubers. I bought majority of these from small farms like mine, but I also bought some wholesale, which you run a gamble on wholesale whether it is actually the variety that it is or not. Genova was one of the varieties that I bought last minute from a wholesaler, and in the middle of the Genova is this sweet little, little pom-pommy, but the petals look like velvet. It is so dark, so beautiful. I have no idea what it is, but I love it, and I'm gonna mark it like small dark dahlia or something because I want more of this. It's so pretty, and I don't have any that are super dark and small like that, so I'm excited to get it. If you think that you know what it is, feel free to reach out, but I have no idea what this is. This next one is kind of along the same lines as a Cornell bronze, maybe slightly more pigmented, and a little bit different petal pattern, but it's called High Suntan. It's cute. It's fine. It has nice long stems. I don't think that it got this way until late this season, but that's fine. This one got a late start, and I also got it mixed up. So I had labeled and tried to abbreviate dahlias, which is not a good idea because I think I'm gonna know what they are and I don't. So I got mixed up. There are two, High Suntan that I showed you, and then this one called Hillcrest Suffusion. And when I put them away, I labeled them both HS. So I planted them together, and now it's easy to tell the difference because they're definitely not the same. Hillcrest Suffusion, and it is so pretty. It's like pinky, orangey yellow. You can see how it changes when it's older versus a new flower. And I'm just really glad that I know the difference now, and I'm gonna label them differently so that I can plant them separately next year, and then I won't get them so confused. Okay, I wish that I had a better example because this really is a cute dahlia, but most of them are done for the season, is this variety called Iced Tea. It's a nice size dahlia that fits in every bouquet. This isn't a super good example of the color, but it's all I have to work right now, and this variety is called Iced Tea. And it was new to me this year, so I'm going to be propagating more of those for next year. And then after this, I'm pretty sure that Ivanetti was part of the Cornell series. I'm not super sure, but the petals look very similar. It's kind of like the Cornell red, but a little deeper color. It's called Ivanetti. Makes tons of blooms all season long. I will be growing this one for basically ever. It's a basic dahlia, but it's kind of the staples that you need to have in your arsenal to make a well-rounded bouquet. This next one, actually the next few are also some of my favorites, and I know I keep saying that, but I love dahlias. Okay, this one's called Jowie Nikki. I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but it is this like peachy golden color with a little bit of pink, and I love the petal arrangement. It's just so pretty. It was late to the start, but a way that you can get around if you don't have a super long growing season like me, or a mild season, so dahlias really appreciate mild weather. They don't like constant shifts, which in Indiana we always get constant shifts in weather pattern. You can start them early, which is what I plan to do for at least some of every single variety. That way you get some earlier blooms, and then the ones that you just plant tubers of, you'll get more later in the season. But I love that one. And then this is a classic, and before I grew it, I could not understand why everybody loved this dahlia. I mean, it is beautiful, but everybody is obsessed with this one. And now that I have grown it, I understand, and I too am now obsessed. It cranks out tons and tons. It's probably the most productive dahlia tuber or dahlia variety that I own. It's called Jowie Winnie, and it is so beautiful. Its color isn't something that you see all the time, and it changes throughout the season. I totally get it now. I found myself using this in like literally every arrangement. For one, because there are a bajillion stems on the plant. All of the stems are nice and long and strong, and it just goes with everything. And I will need rows and rows of Jowie Winnie, or maybe I won't, just because it produces so many blooms per plant. But if you can only have room for a few dahlia tubers, I highly suggest adding Jowie Winnie to your list. She does not disappoint. Next up is, I keep saying next up, like every transition it's gonna be next up. Anyway, this one I grew last year, but I really don't remember her. I think I probably only had maybe a tuber or two. And this year I have more, and next year I want even more because I love it. This one is called Just Peachy. It has some of my favorite petals. It's fancy, as you can see. It is a soft color on the outside and pigmented in the center, and I love it. It has nice long stems. I've come to appreciate just how long stems are and how much good they do when you don't have to cut off half the plant, and it has a nice long stem that is thin, so I can fit a bunch of flowers in an arrangement. But yeah, Just Peachy makes my list and my continued list from now until forever because I love it. This one I thought I killed at the very beginning of the season, but it came back. I won't say came back with a vengeance though, because it's not a super strong producer, but it is a strange color, so I will grow it. It's this really dark. In some lights it almost looks black. Its foliage is even dark. It's beautiful. It's called Karma Chalk. So next year I guess I will just have to plan for way more plants of it, just because it's not a super strong producer, but when it does produce, it is beautiful. It's stunning. It's so dark that with like a bright pink in your arrangement just looks beautiful. And so she is dramatic in the way that she does not produce a ton of stems, but I will continue to grow her because it's pretty. And this one is another one that I bought wholesale, so I didn't have super high hopes, but I ended up loving it. It's taken a long time for the stems to get long, but it's Labyrinth. And it can get much larger than that. It can have like 6 to 8 inch across blooms. And just like the Cafe au Lait, it tends to bruise its petals. So it's not one that you would want to put in like a grocery store arrangement, or one that you need for multiple days, but it is pretty. It has like the floofy petals. I will continue to grow it. It's not my favorite producer of all time, but it's still worthy enough that it can hold a spot. This next one is oddly super short, but I grew it from a rooted cutting, and the rooted cutting that I bought was literally this big. So she has made a dramatic comeback from just this tiny little start of a plant to what it is now. So I'm very hopeful that next year they will be bigger and more lush, but I'm still very happy with them. It is such a cute variety that everybody needs and everybody wants, and that wasn't a good angle, so let me see if I can get one. This one is a very sought out dahlia. I'm trying to get it to focus on the flower and not my face. It is called Linda's Baby. It never really fully has closed centers. This is about as closed as you're gonna get with Linda's Baby, but I don't know if you can tell, but it has little lacerated petals. That's what it's called when the tips are like little pointy bits. I love this one. I love this one. I'm hoping to have bajillions of it next year. I'm gonna take lots of cuttings to propagate it because it is beautiful and cute, and it's a color that goes with everything, and it's a nice size for a bouquet. So there's Linda's Baby. Hey guys, I'm back. It's actually a few days later. Remember how I said that I was freezing outside? Well, then I got a really nasty sinus infection after that, and today's like day 4, and I finally feel kind of human again. So next up is an absolute workhorse of the dahlia field, and I mean, this thing is massively productive. It is, if you're not an orange person, you're not going to be drawn to this because it is very like sherbet orange. But even if you don't like orange, you're gonna love this dahlia. First of all, the stems are so long. The plant is so prolific. It was one of the first to bloom and one of the most productive, if not the most productive plant that I have out here. And that dahlia, I have this one planted in the Marn patch. But what I didn't know is that it's actually sold under 2 names. It's either Marn, and it's M-A-A-R-N, or Sylvia, and I have both. So I have this planted in 2 different sections. Next year I will just plant them all together because it is the same plant. But I was very, very, very happy with this plant. This is definitely a flower that is going to be, it's in my top 5 for sure. And it's not the color that does it, even though I do like orange. I'm an orange gal. But the flowers have a very long vase life. It's medium-sized flowers, very manageable in a bouquet, and like I said, it just cranks out the blooms all season long. It has not stopped since it got started, so this is definitely one of my favorites. I'm sad because I don't have a super good example of this flower because she changes a lot with the season. I feel like every bloom that it threw up has been different, and while it's not wildly productive, most larger dahlias aren't super productive anyway, and it's also in the group that I bought the tiny little bitty cutting of, so this isn't a fair comparison. I'll compare it, you know, how it grows next year, but very happy with the blooms. This is Miss Amara, and like I said, it can look like 5 different ways so far. Like this one has an open center, which as you get farther along in your dahlia season, they start throwing open centers, but I don't have much to show you about that one, but I do like it. This next one was late to the party, and I only have 1 tuber of it somehow. It is, oh, I had 2, but 1 didn't make it, I guess. This dahlia is new to me this year, and I love it. I don't have any other dahlia that is quite this color. It's like this raspberry, is just the best word that I can describe it, but its outer petals are kind of ombre. I don't know if you'll be able to tell. Here, let me try to show you. This dahlia is Mystique, and it's really not conveying on camera. We'll see when I edit it, but it is so beautiful. I love the petal formation and the color. And as you can see, it's starting with nice long stems. Yeah, I hope to propagate this. I will get this Dahlia tuber out extra early, and I will propagate it as much as I possibly can to up my stock of this because I love it, and I only have one tuber, and if it doesn't make it through the winter, I'm going to be so sad. Almost the rest of this entire row is peaches and cream. Peaches and cream is one of my absolute favorites. I'm pretty sure it's everybody's one of their absolute favorites because it is just beautiful. This is one of the variations that it can be. Peaches and cream. It can look like this, or this, slightly more orange. But it can also look like this, which is mostly orange with a little bit of white on one side. While this style is more ideal, that's what, you know, the stock photo of peaches and cream is going to look like. I like a variation. I think this is beautiful. Obviously, the striking difference between the peach center and the white petals are why we love it. But I will tell you one thing. This is the most bug-riddled dahlia variety in my field. For whatever reason, there's a scale of how to measure sugars in plants. It's called the Brix scale. This has got to have a high rating, and I believe that I listened to a podcast and someone was talking about that. There must be more sugars concentrated in this dahlia than the other kinds because, I mean, it seems like, thank goodness I grew so much of this variety because at least 50% has bug damage, and not just a little bug damage, like half of it is eaten bug damage. I did buy organza bags, and I had high hopes of putting them on the buds. Like you would put a bag over a bud that looked like this and then let it open inside the bag where it's protected. It's like insect netting, but for just the individual buds. And I will probably try to make that higher of a priority next summer because the amount of loss due to bugs is just unfathomable. Like so many Japanese beetles and every other kind of pest that you can have in a dahlia found these. So, but what they lack in, you know, pest protection, because they're very susceptible, they make up for in just sheer volume. The stems are good. You do have to cut back some of the plant when you cut a stem. It doesn't throw up really long, strong stems like some of the varieties that I have showed you, but so many blooms. The plants were covered all season long, and now I have tons of seed pods. I let a lot of my stock go to seed just because I didn't have a super high demand in flowers, so it's not like I needed every stem, and so if I didn't pick it, it just went to seed, and I'm very excited about going through all of these and seeing if I have a magical new variety next year. But that's more thoughts for another video. Okay, up next, it kind of got split, so I have some at the end of the last row and the start of this next row, but it's another dahlia that makes my top 5. And it's in the same category as Marn and Sylvia are. Now, while it is beautiful, it's this bright fuchsia pink, I guess is how you would describe it. It holds a long time in the vase. It throws up massive amounts of blooms. I mean, like, this plant right here has like 15 on the top of it, like just from what I can see right now. And just for that reason alone, I love it. It throws up really long stems, tons of blooms. It was one of the first ones to bloom out of all of these, and it's still cranking them out now, and I'm neglecting these. Like, obviously not keeping up with deadheading since I want lots of seed, and she is just still cranking them out. I love this one. So if you, especially if you're going for, you know, like sellable stems, This plant, everybody needs at least 10 of these on their flower farm, or as many as you can possibly do, because they're that good. And I don't know, I can't remember if I just told you the name of the variety or I just blabbed about it, but the name of it is Pink Sylvia, and she's definitely here to stay for like ever. This next plant, I am really mad that I did not notice this plant. And I forgot, because it was new to me this year, and I honestly forgot it was over here, and it's in the sea of like peaches and cream behind me. So she got kind of covered up because it's shorter than the other ones. But I love it. And now that I know that I have it, I'm going to be using it a lot more. I literally just cut the first stem like last week. But it is a variety called Robin Hood. Its blooms are on the smaller side, as you can see here, maybe 3 inches across, but it's throwing up a lot of different variations. So some of the stems, or some of the blooms, almost look tie-dye. They are a beautiful contrast of like kind of cream colored and pink and dark pink and kind of yellow, and it's not what I would usually gravitate toward, but it is very striking. Like I actually love this one. I love this soft one. If you can tell, the lighting isn't great, you guys. I'm really sorry. This next variety, I have a ton of because I thought that I loved it, but compared to everything that I do have, it's no longer one of my favorites. And honestly, I feel like I caught the bug from Instagram, because you know, things look beautiful on Instagram and then you think that you need a million of it, but it's just not a color, because I do market bouquets and not a whole lot of like, if this was bridal, for sure, because the colors are very soft. And it is beautiful, but people that want these weekly, you know, market bouquets want the bright, fluffy colors. But this is Rock Run Ashley. It's mildly productive, I feel like. Its stems aren't super long though, and sometimes it can have a bobblehead where like where it connects to the stem isn't super strong. And then sometimes it can even point down, which is really annoying, because I want it to be like looking up in a bouquet, not like facing down. So that's annoying, but I will continue to grow it. It is pretty. It's very soft. If I did like a baby shower or bridal or something, this would be really cute, but I've seen better. So this one is another one that got lost in the sea because I was distracted by picking Pink Sylvia, because it's a lot taller of a plant than this small. This is Rose Toscano. I will definitely be keeping this one around. It is a cute little bloom. Maybe like 2 inches across, but it's the kind that you can like just stick into every bouquet, and it has a place because its colors go with everything. It does kind of change color. It can be like a lot more muted and blushy color, or it can be kind of pinky. The plants aren't exceptionally tall, but it is throwing up like usable stems. If you were going for like, you know, 18-inch florist bouquet stems, I'm not sure if this one would meet that criteria without cutting half the plant off. But if you just need like 12-inch stems for a bouquet, it makes plenty long. This one, while she was pretty late to the party, it is beautiful. I mean, look at the petals on this guy. She doesn't smell like anything. This is like a must if you do any bridal work or anything dainty. There was a bee seeing why I'm out here doing this. But it is beautiful. I don't reach for it all that often because, like I said, my market, they want the bright flowers, but it is beautiful, and I will continue to grow it because once in a while you need a pop of a light color, and it's like the softest baby pink. What is it called? Sweet Natalie. But it's been putting out the stems. Now, it was kind of later to bloom than some of the earlier ones, but it makes up for it because it's really pretty. This next one falls into the one of my favorites categories, and I feel like I just keep saying that, but I really do mean it. I think it's really fun, first of all. It doesn't have the world's longest vase life, but it doesn't matter because when in your life are you ever going to see a flower that has that kind of petal shape? Like for the average person, they don't. So it has that going for it. I love the colors of it. It's this like bronzy muted raspberry in the center, and it's so pretty. It's super tall. So I'm 5'4" and these are probably 5 foot tall plants, especially if I would have staked these. So the fact that they're this tall and they're still upright just speaks to how strong the plant is, because they should definitely be staked at this height. But this flower is called Terracotta, and I have a nice almost whole row of it, and so next year I could have like a whole like double row. I love it. The stems are super long. You can see how long the stem is before you get to the actual plant. Super healthy, thrives on neglect apparently, because these are tall and so they should be laying on the ground, and she is standing up tall and strong, and I will be growing this one forever because I love it. This next one I grew for the first time, and I honestly was shocked at how large the blooms were on this plant. Like, this isn't even the biggest one, and it's a good like 6-inch bloom. Some of them were anywhere from 8 to 10 inches. Now, that's not super usable. Like, it's more for novelty than it is for actual production. So if you are only here for efficiency and things that provide you with stem, this one is not your, ew, I ate a bug. This one is not going to be on your list, but it is on mine because I like frivolous things that sometimes are just for me. And this one is called Thomas Edison. It's super deep purpley. It's just beautiful. It bruises really easy. The petals bruise. It's not super productive because it is a huge bloom, but I will grow it because it looks really amazing in a bouquet. Just like half the bouquet is this giant flower. And it is pretty, and I like it, and it sparkles in the sunshine. And sometimes you just gotta have things that are just for fun, you know, not all business all the time. And here's one that I have not cut one single stem of this whole time because it's been mixed up. This one, oh no, I broke it. This one is called Breakout. It gets massive blooms, super pretty. It falls into like the novelty category. Unless you were doing bridal work, then this would look really pretty. Obviously this isn't a good example because it's a half dead flower, but I needed to leave it so that I could mark it correctly because I only have one of these tubers. So I'm gonna be sure right now that I'm gonna mark what it is because it doesn't have a tag and I need to know. This next one I don't have a super good example of because the flowers just look really tired. Oh, and of course it's windy. But this one is a variety called Lark's Ebb. As you can see, the bugs are getting to it. But it is really pretty. And I will tell you, for me at least, it had a super long vase life. Like in a bouquet of all dahlias, like this was almost always the last one standing for me. It's on the softer color side, so if you're going for punchy, that's not it, but it is a very usable stem. It goes with like every color. The plants are pretty short, but you can get a long enough stem out of them. Okay, this next one stumped me all season long because I guess I just didn't think to bend down and look at what the tag is. But it was a little late to the party. And all the blooms on the plant look a little bit different, but this little guy, which they do get a little bit bigger, but it's not a super large bloom. It's called Wine-Eyed Jill. It's sending up very tall, usable stems. I do like that. It's just not my favorite color. I don't love purple, but it's a small one that can go in like every bouquet. I feel like it goes with everything, and so I'll continue to grow it. And this last row is kind of like mixed matched stuff that I have left over, but this is on purpose because I tried to go as much as I could alphabetical order. But this is a little cutie called I about said the same thing. It's Wizard of Oz. It's a shorter plant. It is very compact, like maybe 2.5 feet tall, and it took forever to get stems that are long enough. So I'm not sure if I love it. I'll give it a couple more years and see, but I feel like it just took forever for the stems to get long enough to cut, so I did not come down here very often and cut it, which is why you see like a bajillion buds on the plant, because I didn't love that. This next variety is pretty funky, but I actually love it. It's called Polka, and it has, oops, I broke it off. It has the like fluffy sunshine center, and then the petals can range anywhere from like complete white to white with a pinkish purplish outline on the outside to almost pink. Like it changes a lot during the season, and I think it's happy and cheery, and I think that it's adorable, and I want to grow. Ooh, and it smells kind of like a daffodil. Daffodils are my favorite scented flower of springtime. Anyway, but this one I'm gonna continue to grow, and I hope to propagate more because I think that it's fun. This one is pretty funky, but I did not find myself reaching for it hardly ever, and I feel like it sheds petals super easy, even when it's not, you know, overly mature. This one, let me see if I can get a good, oh, there we go. This is Hoolin's Carnival, or Howlin', or I don't know how you say it. I always just say Hoolin. And it's like got that striping and polka dotty, and I grow it just because it's early to flower, and it is fun, but I don't know how like usable it actually is with this coloring. It doesn't really go with much, but it is striking, and not many people see it, and so some people do love that one, and so I'll continue to grow that. So I think the rest of that row is just like stuff that got left over. Like I'd find a few extra tubers that I didn't get planted with their siblings, and I had to plant them on the end. And so I think that's all that's left. But yeah, this was a very last minute rush before the first frost of the season, but I wanted to show you because I had a couple people ask just what varieties I was growing this year. And I've already, you know, told myself that I have plenty and I don't need to get more next year, but you know, I have a problem and I like to collect things, and Dahlia varieties I love to collect. So we'll see if next year's video looks any different than this year, if I end up collecting more over the season. But I am going to now have just like 10 minutes of peace walking up and down, maybe picking a bouquet for me to put on my table. But anyway, the end of the season is coming. Or if you're in a different hemisphere than me. The start of your season is coming, in which I know you're all so excited, and I'm so sad for winter, for all this to be gone. All you winter people are weird. Anyway, thank you guys for walking around the dahlia field with me today, and yeah, I'm just gonna take it all in before it's gone forever. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time.